Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Silent Shenanigans podcast with Jacob Maggard
Dalton Phillips.
this week we're going to go over some Week 3 recaps. Had a couple pretty fun games that ended up being a little bit better than we thought they would be. A couple games we didn't even take a look at in our pick'ems that ended up being pretty close. And then, of course, we had some upsets here and there. But just jumping right into it, of course, first one on the screen here is a big one. Georgia pulls out a 1 point win over a Kentucky team that just got whooped up by South Carolina last week.
That changes the SEC a lot, in my opinion.
Here's my thought on this game. It's one of those games where, it was Georgia's first road SEC opponent. Of course, that's always going to be difficult. And I think it was just something that they kind of needed somebody to slow them down a little bit and show them what they have that's wrong. I think this is one of those games that actually will right the ship. It'll make Georgia look like a better football team in the future because they can find out what they didn't do well in that game. I watched a little bit of a film breakdown of parts of the first half, and it was Beck wasn't making his reads as accurately. He was kind of he was just making incorrect reads on a lot of his throws. So to me, that was part of it. I think he didn't play as good as he can play, and then of course Kentucky played
Their
way.
defense played very good.
Their defense was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kentucky's defense was phenomenal.
Offensive side of the ball, they weren't really getting rolling that much. I mean, they could run the ball a little bit, but they really weren't sparking up that much. But it shows them scoring only 12 points. But that's against a crazy good Georgia team.
Yeah.
Even after that game, they're still crazy good. They're still the number one team in the nation, in my opinion.
Quick rundown of stats. Of course, you can see Beck's stat line wasn't amazing. 15 for 24, 160. Didn't even throw a touchdown. And then Etienne kind of, I guess, shouldered the load a little bit on offense. He was pretty good this game. Kind of his first real opponent because he didn't play against Clemson at all. On the other side, Vandagriff, 10 times better game than last week where he had 3 completions. And then, of course, the running back, 22 carries, 98 yards. That was definitely he was the key of that game. He actually ran really well in that game. And then, of course, Jamarion Wilcox, backup running back, played well as well.
And that's impressive against Georgia's defense.
Yeah, they ran the ball well.
A lot of teams can't do that very well against a good Georgia defense.
Again, this is concerning. They of course, 2 fumbles, didn't lose either one of them. Kentucky did have a fumble that they lost, but protect the ball better. Delp's fumble actually ended up being a good thing for Georgia because he fumbled past the first down marker at the end of the game, and they ended up getting a first down.
Getting the first down because of it, yeah.
So that helped them actually, but we'll see. I think Georgia will play much better in 2 weeks, of course, with the big showdown coming up then. But a good game. It was a close one. It was fun to watch. I watched the end of it in my hotel room, and it was a fun one. Next game here, Texas UTSA. Obviously, you're looking at the score. You're like, why are we covering this one? Not much to talk about in the game itself, as in
Arch Manning. That's who we're talking about.
The talking point is Arch Manning plays phenomenal, and it's his first college football game where he actually took snaps in a meaningful time of the game. He didn't take them in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left. He took them and played extremely well. Of course, he goes 9 for 12, 223, 4 touchdowns. The ball looks so good coming out of his hand. Bigger talking point is Quinn Ewers okay? Because Arch Manning played phenomenal, but Arch Manning played phenomenal against the UTSA football team.
Yeah, he hasn't really – UTSA is not good.
They need Quinn Ewers to win against the top-tier football teams. And I don't think that Arch Manning is ready just yet, but he looks phenomenal. He's going
Especially playing in the SEC, you have to be able to be ready to play in the SEC.
He's going to be so good next year, I think. I mean, he just looks so ready. Other stats to talk about. Running game was awesome for Texas. As you can see, at 5.3 yards per carry. Couple losses down here on some plays, but Jarrett Gibson runs well. Manning, of course, like I said, had the big breakaway touchdown. Contravion Wisner, he played less this week than last, but again, they didn't need him. It was a blowout.
Yeah, UTSA, you don't need him against them.
But yeah, not a lot to talk about, but just had to bring up that Arch Manning looks phenomenal. Next game on the schedule here, Memphis, Florida State. Florida State has now started the season 0-3. Dalton made a prediction. He said they might not even win 8 games.
I'm just saying. Call me a genius.
Dalton's prediction looks phenomenal at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
This football team outside of DJ Uiagalelei is not that bad. They're not a ranked football team. They're not a great football team. If they had anything at quarterback, they could be solid. He is awful. He's awful. He is as bad of a quarterback at a big university that I've ever watched. He looks terrible. Another game where he throws basically a 50% completion percentage, a little bit over, throws another pick. Doesn't do anything in the running game, which you could blame that more on him and the offensive line. But
Yeah, that's if you can't pass the ball, you're not going to. Yeah,
yeah,
running the ball, yeah, it just goes hand in hand with each other.
as a team, neither team ran the ball well at all in this game. But Memphis did have their passing game going. Seth Hennigan looked really good. Of course, he spread the ball around a lot. A lot of different receivers had receptions in this game. Otherwise, Roydell had a big fumble. That definitely hurt Florida State. Didn't help them at all. And then defensively, kind of quick. Both teams' offensive lines weren't horrible, but weren't great. 12 TFLs for Memphis is insane, though.
Obviously, the offensive line might play a role in that because I mean that could be a thing causing the quarterback play to be pretty bad. But I think if you're a quarterback, he was supposed to be a high caliber quarterback too.
Oh yeah,
like he was. I mean, there was at one point there was a Heisman talking to him maybe.
yeah.
And he's just showing that he can't do any of that. Even with, I mean, a star football player is going to make plays. Doesn't matter like who you have at different positions. You're going to make plays, and he's just not showing he can do that.
No, he's shown no development as a player this year. He actually reverted. He looked worse than he did at Oregon State, and there was points there that he looked like a solid quarterback, and it was like, okay, maybe he's finding what he had that freshman year at Clemson.
At Clemson, because he didn't look bad at Clemson. I remember watching him. He was actually like a decent player, and then
his first year at Clemson, he looked pretty good.
Yeah,
but it's gone. Everything he has that he did have is gone. Not much else to say here, but Memphis looks like a real contender for that final spot in the playoff. Washington State, fun game, good game, close game,
surprising game. That was a surprising game for me. I was expecting Washington to win this by a long shot.
I think a lot of people thought both Washington State and Oregon State being in the Pac-2 weren't going to do anything this year. And Washington State has completely destroyed that narrative because they look like a pretty solid football team.
A 3-0 football team. That's
3-0, and they play a Mountain West Conference schedule this year. Now, I don't know how their playoff works for them. I don't know exactly how that works. They're not going to play a conference championship game. And I assume that for them to have to get into the playoffs, it would have to be them being 12-0 and being ranked.
They have to be 12-0. Yeah.
Stats-wise, both Washington and Washington State, decent passing game from Mateer, but he's more of a runner. Will Rogers looked good in this game. It was 23 for 31, 314 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it's not like Washington State did a ton more in this game. Of course, they did turn the ball over, which Washington didn't do. But Mateer, again, is just so good on his feet. And then they did have Wayshawn Parker play pretty well out of the backfield as well. It's an interesting game. Josh Meredith goes off 7 for 111 and a touchdown.
What a great game there.
Look at Washington receiver Giles Jackson, 8 for 160.
Wow.
I mean, that's a phenomenal game. This was just a good game. But Washington State looks legit. They can definitely compete with people. And it's a good win for them early on. All right, starting our slate of games. First game we picked, Friday game. I had Arizona. Dalton had Kansas State. As you can see, Kansas State was the far better football team.
Arizona team didn't look good at all. No,
Arizona was incapable of running the ball. It was embarrassing how bad they were, and we thought this was going to be a good duo matchup.
Conley.
Well, obviously, look at the other side. DJ Giddens, Avery Johnson both go crazy in this game. Avery Johnson, in my opinion, the best rushing quarterback in the country. Him, Mateer from Washington State, we just looked at as one of. But Avery Johnson's phenomenal running the ball. He also passed well in this game.
Yep.
Other statistics to look at, you would have thought it'd been a little bit closer with Tetaroa going off, 11 for 138, but they just didn't find him in the end zone. They could
no touchdowns. You've got to get the ball when you get in the red zone. Got to.
Other than that, it's one of those games. Kansas State, they look swarming on defense. They look pretty good, and they didn't even get to Fifta that much. Only 1 sack. It was just kind of Arizona made too many mistakes, a lot of slow offense, not effective, and then, of course, the pick. But Kansas State looks legit. Kansas State looks pretty good.
Yep.
This one was a nice one. I mean, we had a good one here.
I thought I was going to get a win here on my pick here because I was watching that game. I was like, South Carolina is looking good.
Of course, difference in the game. Lenore Sellers goes down with an injury. And after that, South Carolina was a completely different football team. I think realistically, they might have won this football game. I really think they were going to win this football game.
I think with Sellers at quarterback, they would have won the football game.
They looked really good until Sellers comes out. Sellers gets hurt. Ashford steps in. First 2 drives that he was in there, he didn't throw a pass. And LSU kind of just figured out, oh,
They're going to run the ball. They don't trust this guy enough.
Yeah. And Ashford was a transfer in that did play a year of Power 4 football, but he was pretty awful. He was like 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions where he was at. He wasn't great. He kind of transferred in just to be that backup that was probably never going to play unless they had to, and then of course they need him.
Yeah.
Of course, looking at the passing game, Nussmeier ends up getting it done. He wins the game for him, and then they did have a guy step up, Caden Durham, which was they needed it so bad. They had no run game. Emory Jones done for the year. They had to have somebody step up on offense, and then Caden Durham was the guy. He was really good in this game. 11 for 98, 2 touchdowns, almost 9 yards per carry. Of course, you look at the other side at South Carolina. Rocket Sanders is awesome. Rocket Sanders is so good. He's just a big dude running the ball, man, and he runs through contact. And then, of course, same with Lenore Sellers. He's a great running quarterback. He looked good in that game as well until the injury. I don't know if you have any insight on it.
No, I was just surprised. I was like expecting. I was watching that game. I watched like the second half on from that game, and because I tuned in, I was like expecting to be a blowout. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, my pick here was just to pick the upset. But I was like, South Carolina's actually win. I better tune into this. And then I watched it, and then it's like as soon as Sellers got hurt, it was just kind of just downhill from there. But like they still played a great game. That surprised me about the South Carolina team because I didn't think they were that good.
Yeah, they have 2 stud edge rushers here. Of course, we got Nick Emenwari, 9 total tackles, looked really good. He's constant pressure in the backfield. And, of course, Kyle Kennard, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 TFLs. They're good, man. They're really good pass rushers. And then, of course, Emenwari had the pick at the end of the game that, without a block from a teammate of his, blocked the quarterback into the ground, into the dirt.
It would have been a touchdown.
Past him, 15-yard penalty brings the pick back. It was a pick 6. Emenwari pick 6s them, and that's
the ball game.
You probably would win that football game because you would have had every bit of momentum. Your defense is just playing lights out, and it was just such a mental mistake. And then of course they had to punt the ball right back to LSU because their offense was just not moving anymore. And oh man, it was just you could watch it slip through their fingers. It was
down to the wire. It was to the wire still though, even with all the mistakes like that.
But great game, and I think LSU still looks like a good football team. South Carolina still looks like a good football team. I think both of them are going to compete in the SEC. I think they're not going to be the top tier teams, but those are teams that can compete in the SEC and give tough games to big time opponents. Of course, me and Dalton both picked this one to be a blowout. I mean, we both said it was a pretty easy pick. Wisconsin hadn't looked very good, even though they were 2-0. They had struggled against 2 teams that they were supposed to beat. And even though Alabama had come in with a little bit of a struggle, they heated up at the very end of the USF game and just carried offense into this one.
I think they used that heat off that USF game because I mean they underperformed major in that game, and they had to come show them what they could actually do.
Yes, I mean they needed to come out and be elite because they hadn't shown it through 2 games that they were elite. They had looked good but not elite. Statistically speaking, Milroe has his best game of the year so far. 196, 3 touchdowns, pretty accurate completion percentage here. And then of course he runs the ball well in this game as well. First game, he's also really dominated in the running game with 1475, 2 touchdowns. And then Jam Miller. Again, Jam Miller is phenomenal. He's looked great all year. Jam Miller has secured that RB1 spot. And then receiving-wise, Ryan Williams. He stepped up, and he has been their elite target. He is the number 1 target on that football team. He's a phenomenal receiver at 17 years old. He's going to be a problem for the next 2 years after this one. He's very good. Offensively for Wisconsin, as you can see, Tyler Van Dyke only plays a little bit of the game, goes 5 for 5. I think it was an injury. Then Braden Locke takes over. After that, it really downhill on offense for them.
Not there.
They didn't make crucial, horrible decisions, but 2 fumbles killed them.
You can't do that against an Alabama team.
Yes.
It's Alabama.
Fumble. Again, both of them weren't playing either. They weren't playing bad. I mean, Chez Malusi, Cade Yasameli, 11 for 66, 8 for 39. Both have good averages on their carries. It's just at that point, you fumble away the ball twice to Alabama. You let them get a massive lead, and that game's over like that. Because it was actually pretty close. Bama had just scored, and then Wisconsin went down to kick a field goal to make it back to a 1-possession game. It was going to be 14-6. He shanks the field goal. Bama scores immediately, and just like that, the game's over.
And that momentum's gone. Once you lose the momentum to any Alabama team, you might as well just call the game over with.
Not a whole lot else to talk about other than Bama does look legit, but I still think they're not the best team in the SEC.
Their offensive line came in and actually proved that they were better than what they were. They performed
a lot better in this game.
Yeah, they showed themselves a lot better than they were.
Next game, This one was fun. Everybody kept on saying Boston College is not legit. Now, we both talked about it last week. We didn't know if Boston College was great up to the same level as Missouri, but we knew that they were at least a good football team. They've looked good in the wins. They looked great in this game. They kept it super close the whole time. A couple mistakes here and there is what lost them the football game, but they were right in it with a number 6 Missouri team at Missouri. Statistically speaking, this is what lost them the game. Castellanos just didn't protect the ball. 2 picks you just cannot have in a 6-point loss. They don't run the ball well.
I'd like to see them run the ball more, especially how much they performed running the ball the last 2 weeks before that. I'd like to see them run the ball more.
Yes. I mean, we talked about Turbo Richard last week. We talked about Trayshawn Ward in the first week. Neither one of them have good games, and that just it was just non-existent run game. And then Castellanos also did not run well at all. But this again is the proven development of his passing game. He goes for 250, 3 touchdowns. Again, it's just the 2 mistakes that he made, and I just think it's because he's not an elite passing quarterback yet. But he developed. He's developed as a player. He looks a lot better passing the ball. It's just the mistakes. You have to get rid of the mistakes. On the other side, of course, Missouri, we know Brady Cook. He's a vet quarterback. The dude looks good. He runs well. He didn't even have to run much in this game. 6 carries, 6 yards. That means he was probably getting hit in the backfield a little bit here. But Nate Noel, talking point was last week, is again. 22, 121. They run the ball well. That's what wins them this football game. Their defense plays well and gives up 21 points. And
Luther Burden plays good because he's.
And this is what we were expecting. We got Luther Burden's big breakout game. We got it. He went 6 for 117 and a touchdown and looked like the guy he was supposed to be.
Yep.
And of course, we had Theo Weiss, who was great last week. Goes 5 for 53, which is also great.
That's a good game. Yep.
Defensively, not too much to talk about. They weren't in the backfield a ton. Only 1 sack for Boston College. And then, of course, only 2 for Missouri. So it was a clean game. Both lines played well. Both offenses played well. It's just Boston College couldn't develop the run game, and they had too many mistakes. Pittsburgh, West Virginia. Lead us on this one.
Well, I picked West Virginia going into this game because I was hoping that West Virginia hype was going to be true because, I mean, I believed in West Virginia because Pitt had not shown themselves to be that good.
No.
But, I mean, I'm thinking Garrett Green at quarterback might, but not. He needs to develop.
Yeah, he just isn't great.
He's just not a great quarterback.
He makes mistakes, and you can't have him in a game, especially a rivalry
game like this.
Yep, one where they hate each other.
Yeah,
the mistakes will decide the game, no matter which team's better than the other.
He ran the ball good though. He ran good to be a quarterback. I mean,
he does run well. He's super fast. He's a super fast quarterback, but he's also not shown his running potential fully this year either. You still would like to see him run a little bit more. I mean, that's kind of what the talking point was he's going to help the running game. C.J. Donaldson plays well again. Raheem White plays good again, both with touchdowns. It's just, the 2 picks. That was the game decider. Yep. You lose by 4. You lose 38.
That's 2 turnovers that you can't have like that.
You don't turn the ball over, you could probably have won it. Other side of the ball, Pittsburgh. Eli Holstein plays awesome. Quarterback, 21 for 30, 301 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. Goes for 14 carries, 59 yards on the ground. Didn't even know he was that dynamic of a rusher.
That's tough.
Desmond Reed goes 4 for 50 and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, West Virginia just isn't there yet. We thought they were going to be pretty good this year. I still don't think they're a bad football team, but they're just not good enough to beat good teams yet, and they look a lot worse than I thought they would be. Next one, Oregon. This was the Oregon team we expected. They finally did it. They finally had an offensive just blowout, and the defense played well. Oregon State come in hot. A lot of people were saying, this could be an upset spot. A lot of people like the upset here. But Oregon State got shut down. If you watch the first half, it was getting ugly quick. Oregon comes out on offense, and they're just firing on all cylinders. Of course, Dylan Gabriel goes 20 for 24. Always been an elite completion percentage type of guy. He goes for 291, 2 touchdowns. And then Jordan James. He's been great all year.
He's ran the ball great all year, and he showed it. He could do it again.
Exactly. He's amazing again. 12 for 86, 7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And then Dylan Gabriel's, most of that 64 yards was a speed option to the left side of the ball. Mm-hmm. He fakes the pitch, carries it, goes all the way down the field, scores. They didn't have anybody deep to catch up with him, and he had a receiver down the field blocking. And then that was it, man. The momentum was all in their favor from the start of the game. For Oregon State, Giovanni McCoy, he plays decently well, 22 for 34. Not amazing, but it's not horrible. He didn't make any mistakes with turning the ball over. It goes for 172. And then they run the ball decently well as well. I mean, Anthony Hankerson, 15 for 57. We talked about him last week. Jam Griffin, they didn't get going on the ground, who was kind of their lead back last week, and they definitely needed them both in this game. I mean, it was out of hand early. Other stats to look at: Tez Johnson was awesome in this game, and then again, Evan Stewart didn't do anything this week, and they didn't need him. Oregon looked like a top 10 team. They looked like a top 5
that
team.
offense that they have. They showed off all their athletes that they have.
The offense looked scary in this game. Next one. What the heck happened here?
A bounce back game, I guess.
Yeah, that is called Notre Dame was pretty upset with the way they lost last week.
Well, I would have been too.
You're only 10. They're only 10.5-point favorites against Purdue. It's at Purdue, so Purdue gets home field advantage, and they come in there and beat them 66-7.
That is absurd.
28 points in the second quarter. They're up a massive lead at halftime. It's already over at the half. Marcus Freeman had the boys playing in this one. Riley Leonard, I mean, just look at the stats combined: 112 passing, 100 rushing, 3 rushing touchdowns.
That's absurd.
Running like crazy. I guess he kind of said, if my athletes won't do anything, I'll do it.
I'm going to do it for myself.
Yeah. Jeremiah Love, great again. We've talked about how good he's looked. That has been the one athlete that has kind of stood out and looked good. And then receiving wise, again, not too much production down here.
Not a crazy
game. Running game being ridiculous. 364 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's absurd. Other side of the ball, Purdue. Hudson Card looked like the bum
that he is,
and not the good Hudson Card. You get kind of one side he's good, one time he's not, and you got a 10 QBR out of him in this game
with 2 interceptions,
with 2 picks, sub 50 completion percentage, negative 42 rushing yards.
He's had to be getting pressured like insane.
Yeah, this was ugly. This was real ugly. Maccabee doesn't do anything on the ground. Kind of their lead back. I guess Reggie Love III ended up being the lead back in this game, but this is just ugly. Purdue,
that's a game for them.
Purdue got whooped. Yeah. Notre Dame 4 sacks. They were getting to them, of course. Really ugly football game for Purdue. And Notre Dame definitely woke up and played like a top 25 football team in this game. Next one. Of course, this was, again, a talking point because last year's game was so close. It went to overtime. It took a Colorado team that a lot of people thought were pretty solid at the time, overtime, to beat a Colorado State team that was not very good. This one, different story. Not very close. Shedeur goes 36-49.
A great game.
Yeah. 310, 4 touchdowns. It's a pretty daggone good game. He only gets sacked once in this game, I believe.
That's a good performance from the offensive line.
The line played a lot better, and they have to have that if they want to have any chance against Power 4 opponents. They run the ball decently well. This is the first time all year they've ran the ball well. And then on the other side, I guess Braden Fowler-Nicolosi kind of learned his lesson about talking crap because leading up to this game on social media, he was saying
talking smack.
Yeah, he said, "What will followers get you in this game?" But
nothing for him.
Followers got Shedeur Sanders 300 yards and a W. If you saw the post game meeting at the middle of the field, Fowler
they didn't like each other.
He tried to shake his hand, and it got ugly.
A little rolly flakes there.
Yes, it was bad. Colorado, Travis Hunter is him.
He's the best athlete in the country.
Travis Hunter he's great again. Other side, Colorado State doesn't get much production from their stud, Torrey Horton. Again, he was injured coming into the game, so that could have played a role into him not being great in this game. But also, he had Travis Hunter on him all game.
That's the difference maker there, too.
Other than that, not a ton to talk about. Colorado did have one guy on the D-line play really well, 2 sacks, 2.5 TFLs, and like I said, they only got to Shedeur once, and his O-line played a much better game. They got to have that for the rest of the year. This one, I know you loved every second.
Oh, I loved every bit of it.
I'll let you lead us on this one.
Well, we heard Rocky Top a lot. I'm very surprised that Kent State didn't score a point because I was expecting to score a little bit, but our defense shows us something.
I don't know, man. Truthfully, that Kent State team is embarrassing.
No, they're really bad.
That's probably the worst football team I've watched play this year. I've watched a lot of games. They're horrible.
But our offense is obviously insane.
Yes.
Nico didn't play. He didn't have to play yet again. Doesn't have to play insane for him to be.
He didn't have to play much.
No, he didn't. I don't think he played much at all. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch this game after we scored 37 points in the first quarter. I was like, well, I think I'm good. I think we're all right. Well,
Yeah.
and I honestly, I don't. I know you don't like this. The aggressiveness to go onside kick on. I mean, we're Heupel's a very aggressive guy with
Yeah.
the offensive, and it shows. I mean, we can score everywhere. I mean, Dylan Sampson has a great game, and Deshaun Bishop, who hasn't got that many carries in the past, went 7 for 120.
Yeah, he plays.
That is
well.
absurd. Dylan Sampson also had 4 rushing touchdowns,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure all of those were in the first quarter too, which is insane.
Tennessee's running game in general, because
It's
Peyton
absurd.
Willis
Yeah,
also does well in this game.
absurd. I
Now,
mean,
of
that's
course, they're running their second stringers, their third stringers in this
yeah,
game because they're going to get
yeah.
those guys worked against this Kent State team. But their running game in general is going to be super important when they play like big time
A
opponents.
big team like coming this week, like Oklahoma. I mean,
Yeah.
I want us to be able. If we can run the ball like that against Oklahoma, I have no doubt that we will win the ball.
You can beat them. No, you can definitely beat
Yeah.
them because the
Yeah.
passing game, as long as Nico doesn't make any mistakes,
No,
the
and he
running
has.
game is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's played. He's had two this year. I think he's had 2 interceptions.
Well, both picks were in the NC State game.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, that game's already a blowout. But I think that we can handle Oklahoma quite well if we can run the ball. It's great. 456 rushing yards.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That is insane.
Yeah, as a team, I mean, to give a little bit of light here to Kent State, Cargman, we talked about it. He was horrible. He played horrible. Running the ball, they actually didn't do terrible. It's whatever this negative 63 come from. It says team. I'm not 100% sure where.
I'm guessing that's a sack, maybe. I don't know.
I'm assuming the quarterback. Yeah, I'm assuming he got sacked and they just didn't have his name down here. But other running, it was not bad. The other guys ran the ball decently well. This was probably a lot of stats against the second stringers, third stringers from Tennessee. Receiving game, again, Tennessee spread the ball around a ton.
Spread the ball to everybody.
But again, they didn't have to pass in this game.
No.
They just ran all the way down the field.
Yeah, 37. I was like, I got to find something else to watch. Even though I love my volunteers, I can't watch any more of this.
This is just sad. It was just sad. And then last but not least, finally, we have a first half where we score points. Now, second quarter was ugly, but we got half of the first half right.
Which is good.
Yes, it's good because if you can come out hot against teams, you don't have to play a phenomenal second quarter because your second half is really good. The second
especially
half,
the fourth quarter, y'all are outstanding in the fourth quarter.
we played extremely well in the second half. Again, this is a top 25 team in the second half. They play great in the second half. I just wish they could repeat it for all 4 quarters. Now, this week was better. They got 3 of 4 quarters correct. The second was ugly, but they fixed issues. Again, this is a score that looks closer than it really was. It was a game where we didn't take our points on a field goal in the first half. We got a field goal blocked. That could have been 43 right there. And then, of course, we let ODU go all the way down the field on like our second and third string guys, and they scored. They had all their first teamers out there. Of course, they were just at that point playing for a little bit of pride, I guess.
They tried a little bit of fun out of it, at least.
Statistics that are important is Kyron Drones has his breakout running game, which we needed desperately. He hadn't ran the ball well this year, but a lot of it was just teams keying in on him. Tootin is phenomenal, one of the best running backs in the country.
Yep, he is.
Easily. Dude looks amazing. Every time he gets the ball, he breaks tackles. Both of his touchdowns in the second half were he didn't get touched. So the O-line was blocking really well in the run game in this one.
That's good for y'all because y'all O-line had been struggling.
They had struggled a ton in the passing game, really, really rough in the passing game, but they had done okay in the running game. And this game, the running game just kind of took over. It was finally worked out for us. On the other side, Old Dominion, they tried to play Colton Joseph early in the game. It was real ugly when he was in there. They put Quinn Hinsicle in there. He goes for a 75-yard read option. That's also another talking point is one of their 2 touchdowns in this game was just a one-play touchdown where we weren't ready for it, and he broke off a huge run and scores. Otherwise, the defense was really good. I mean, Bryce Duke, of course, the tech transfer, he had one huge carry, as you can see, 48 yards. He breaks off that against our second string guys.
That's still a good game.
But Duke looks awesome. I loved him at Tech. He just couldn't beat out Jeremiah Coney and PJ Prelu. He just didn't have a spot, and I hate it because I think he was going to be pretty good, and he did look good when he got the ball in this game. Other stats to look at, Jalen Lane was awesome. Just keep getting him the ball. 7 for 106, 1 touchdown. He scored on a very unique play call we had where we had Parker Clements lined up out in the slot receiver, and he was jumping up and down doing jumping jacks like we were going to throw the ball to him, and Lane just goes whoop right up the seam, touchdown, wide open. They fell for it, and it was a cool play. It was quite funny,
I would
honestly.
like y'all to get Ollie Jennings the ball more because he is a heck of an athlete.
So again, Jennings in this game, Jennings got injured.
Oh,
Jennings
okay,
went
I
out in
didn't
the
know
first
that.
half, and it was one of those things where they asked Pry after the game if he was okay. He said we didn't
Yeah.
need him to come back out
Oh
there.
yeah, if you're beating somebody that bad, you don't want to put a star.
Luckily, we did play well in the second half without him. Running game took over in the second half, and we didn't need him. But hopefully he's healthy for next week because Rutgers is a game where we will need him. They're definitely a much better football team than what we've played so far.
Yep.
Other than that, defensively, Antoine Power Island goes off. 4 sacks, 4 TFLs,
Holy
2
cow,
forced fumbles, recovered one of them. He's a menace.
that is insane.
He's great, man. He played really, really well. Other key things to talk about: our left tackle missed the entire football game, and Johnny Garrett stepped up. He's a redshirt sophomore on the roster, and we needed him to do that because Xavier Chaplin has been our best offensive lineman, and he was down for the game. It was just a freak injury in warm-ups. Not a lot else to talk about, but Tech finally put together a full football game.
And you finally beat ODU at home.
Yes,
ODU.
finally beat them there. Conquered the demons of playing there. We had never beat them there, and that was a huge win for the program. All right, thank you everyone for watching. This has been a fun little recap session here. We had some fun games. Like I said, we looked at some analysis of some games, and there was a lot of interesting games this week. Dalton, anything you want to add?
No, I'm just excited for the rest of the season. Then always go Vols.
Yeah, of course. You have a reason to be. Go Hokies. I'm excited for this upcoming week. I'll be at the game, of course. I think Dalton will also.
I will be there too. Yep.
So yeah, we're excited for that. And again, thank you guys so much. Tune in. Hopefully we're gonna get another pick 'em out on Thursday. That's the goal. And again, I appreciate you guys for being here. Like and subscribe if you can. And peace out, everybody.
Peace.